I will show you how to build an AI-powered automation workflow that replies to website inquiries based on your own company information while keeping a human in control before anything is sent out. As an example, we will take a repetitive manual inquiry process that takes about 10 minutes per message and reduce the human effort by 90% to about 1 minute per message. So you will see how AI automation can handle this work while you or your team still review the final reply before it goes out. The same basic pattern can apply to many small businesses that receive contact form submissions, service inquiries, questions, promotional, and other messages. The manual process usually looks something like this. The message comes in, somebody reads it, somebody decides what type of inquiry it is. If it's a lead, it goes into the CRM, the team saves the details, assigns an owner, creates a follow-up task, collects the right company information, writes the reply, and sends it. If it's a general question, the business may not want to dilute the CRM with it, so the team collects the right information and replies through Gmail. And if it's a promotional message or something irrelevant, no action is needed. The problem is that this kind of work is repetitive and slow. In this example, one lead inquiry takes about 10 minutes to process manually. That may still feel manageable with a few inquiries per week. But if a business receives 50 or more inquiries per week, that becomes 500 minutes, which is more than 8 hours per week. Over a year, that is roughly 52 workdays, over 10 weeks spent on one repetitive process. With the automation we will build, the human effort drops by 90% to about 1 minute per inquiry. So for 50 inquiries per week, the human effort drops from more than 8 hours to about 50 minutes per week. And over a year, that changes the workload from roughly 52 workdays to about 5 workdays. This automation will not remove human completely, and that is intentional. AI can make mistakes. And these replies go to real people, including potential customers. So the goal is not to blindly automate communication. The goal is to let AI automation handle the repetitive work, the heavy lifting, while a human still reviews and sends the final reply. Before building the AI automation, the first thing you need to do is map out how your website inquiries are being processed today. Break down the manual workflow into steps from start to finish. It will help you to design the automation later. You can do this as a simple list of steps or as a diagram. It is also useful to measure how long the current manual process takes on average. That way, after you build the automation, you can compare the manual process with the automated one and calculate how much the efficiency has improved. Using the same manual process I explained earlier, here is how a breakdown can look like. In this scenario, team member A handles the admin and data entry work, and team member B handles the actual reply to the lead because they have the right communication skills. So the process starts with the visitor submits the website form, and the website checks if all fields are filled in, everything is valid. Then team member A reads the inquiry in the website admin area. Then they categorize it. Then they log it into an inquiry log in a Google Sheet. And depending on the category, if it's a lead, then team member A checks if the lead email address exists in the CRM. If not yet, they create a lead. Then they copy and paste the details from the website to the CRM, they assign an owner to it, and they create a task to reply to the inquiry and assign it to team member B. Then at some point, team member B checks their tasks and they read the inquiry. Then they collect the relevant company information from Google Docs. And then they write the reply and send it to the lead via the CRM, and then they mark the task as completed. If the inquiry was a general question, then team member B collects the relevant information from Google Docs and then writes email and send it via Gmail. And if the inquiry was a promotion or something else, then no action is taken. I tested this manual process a few times for a lead inquiry, and one round took about 10 minutes on average. The next step is to translate the manual process into an automated one. Before I show you how to build the automated workflow step by step, the automated version looks similar to the manual one, but somewhat different. Most steps and the heavy lifting are handled by AI and automation, but a human stays in control. Instead of two, only one team member is involved in the process, and even for them, the effort is minimized. Instead of about 10 minutes per inquiry, the human effort drops to about 1 minute per inquiry. Because there is only one person involved in this process, collecting the relevant business information and writing the draft email reply can happen earlier in the process. To build this automation, we will use a no-code visual automation platform called Make.com. It supports over 3,000 popular apps, so there is a really good chance that you can connect the systems you already use, such as your website, CRM, email platform, and others. That is a free plan, but two of the key limitations of the free plan are that it only allows 2 active scenarios, and it only contains 1,000 credits per month, which runs out quite quickly. So I recommend you to start with at least the core plan, which allows unlimited active scenarios and contains 10,000 credits per month, and you can scale as you grow. In the demo, I will use the following stack. If you use a different website platform or a CRM or something else, the overall building process is very similar. Just use the relevant modules to you. There are 2 approaches, either using the new Make AI Agents module or creating a step-by-step AI automation. They both achieve the same end result. The key difference between the 2 is how they work. A Make AI agent has access to a knowledge base, for example, information about the company. And the agent also has access to a set of tools, for example, adding a row to a Google Sheet or finding a lead in the CRM and other tools. The agent follows a plain text instruction that describes the steps and the rules of the workflow. This instruction is written in natural language. The agent reads the knowledge base and calls the relevant tools when they are needed and figures out what details to fill in where to be distinct. It's somewhat more flexible and feels more natural, but it may be less consistent. On the other hand, while the AI automation approach follows the same business workflow steps, it doesn't do it by following a plain text instruction. It goes through determined routes and modules step by step. Every route, module, and details are defined by the builder. It is less flexible than an AI agent and feels a bit more technical, but it is more consistent. Because for this web inquiry automation, the reliability and consistency is key. We will use the AI automation approach. Plus, the Make AI agent is in beta stage currently. When I tried to set up a scenario with the AI agent, I found a specific blocking issue. It doesn't allow the agent to dynamically assign an email or a task to a lead that the AI agent created earlier. I'm sure this is just a temporary issue and they will fix it at some point, but for now, this is another reason why we will use the AI automation approach. After you log in, you will see the dashboard of Make.com. And on the left-hand side, you can see different menus. For now, only the scenarios menu is important, so let's go there. On the left-hand side, you can see categories of scenarios and different kind of folders. I like categorizing my scenarios into different folders. After you have 5, 10, 20 or more scenarios, it just makes it easier to find the relevant ones. So right now, let's go into the demos, and let's create a new scenario. In the description, I will share the link to the automation I'm about to build so you can import it into your own Make.com account and modify it as you need it. For now, I will show you how to build it step by step. Once you understand how to build this, you will also understand how to modify it. A couple of things that you need to understand about the editor. So at the top of the top corner, you can see the name of the scenario. You can change it. At the bottom, you can find a couple of things. There is one option to run the scenario once. You will see able to trigger this through a webhook. Also, you can set schedule how it should run. I will explain this later. There is a save button here, which we'll use quite frequently. And the rest of the details are not important at the moment. To navigate through the scenario, you will see it in practice, but you can use a scroll to zoom in and out. You can use the right click and drag the scenario around and move things around to navigate. And with every single module, you can click on it and it will do certain things. The very first thing that we need to add is a webhook. Right here you can see this webhook, but might be on your list, might be it's not there because I use this frequently, it's there. But you can always search for it to find it easily. And we will use the custom webhook for now. And we will set this up in a moment. But before I do that, let me quickly explain what a webhook is. A webhook is a communication method between two softwares. Just imagine this, we have two softwares, software A and software B. Let's say software B has a webhook. And basically what happens is software A can use a webhook address, which looks really similar to a website address. And software A can send information and software B, the webhook, catches that information. Usually it's a one-way communication that one software sends information and the other one catches it. In our situation, this will basically, the website is going to be software A that is going to send the submitted form information, the name, email address, subject, the message, going to send that information, and make.com is going to catch that information, and then make.com will do certain things with it. The way we can set this up in make.com, when you add this and you click on the module with left click, you will see this. And if you click on the add, you can set up a new webhook. We'll use a demo web inquiry submit as a name, and then just click on save. What you will see is basically it says listening for data. To send the request with sample data, so you can understand it. Basically, you can see this URL. As you can see, it's, let me quickly zoom in. As you can see, it's kind of like a special website URL. We will use this, just copy this one. And depending on what website platform you are using and form solution you are using, you will use this to send information. In this demo, I am using WordPress as a website platform and a tool called and a plugin called Forminator. And I already set up a simple form, first name, last name, email address, subject, and message. And what I'm going to do now is just quickly in the integration, I will set this up and save. And basically what will happen when the website form is submitted, the submitted information is going to be sent to this webhook. So the next thing that we need to do is pretty much save this. It already shows a certain set of information, but to make sure that it is correct, we need to do two things. Like one, save the module, and then save the scenario with this button. And the next thing that we need to do is to activate the scenario, just to make sure that once we send the information from the website, that this is going to be activated. Just to make sure that this scenario is activated, I will refresh the page. When you open a scenario, you will see this information, and anywhere you click with the left button, it will open the editor. Then you can see that this is actually an active scenario. And I will click on this one and click on this button again. That's like new values. So it's listening again, this webhook. And I will go to the website. Okay, these are the information I filled in: the name, last name, email address, subject, and a message. And I will click on submit and go back to make. And as you can see, that like now we have more information, more fields, more details. If you go back to the scenario, the diagram window, that is a history tab. If you go there, you can see what happened with this scenario. And one of them is when an automation actually ran. In this case, we have a successful submit triggered. And if you click on it, what you will see is what happened in that scenario step by step. Later on, you will see this. It makes more sense. It helps a lot, especially when you are troubleshooting a scenario. But one of the things what you can do is click on this bubble, and that shows you the information of that scenario. What was the input of that scenario? Usually it shows the input and the output. In this case, we can only see the output. And in the output, you can see the name, the email, the subject that we sent, the actual message that we sent, and some additional information like when was the form submitted, the current URL, and similar things. So we will use most of these informations. So let's go back to the diagram tab and then click on the anywhere. So we're back in the editor. The next thing is we're going to do is an extra level of security. We're going to make sure that the information that we're getting is coming from the website, our website, and not from somewhere else. And the way you can do this is to add a new module. We are building this automation process that I showed you earlier, and we already have the webhook that catches the information. And the next module is going to be the one that categorizes. For that one, we are going to use an OpenAI module. If you search for it and you click on it, you can see all the available modules. For this one, we are going to use the generate response. I will close this one for now. With the left button, you can grab it and move the module around. It's easier to see it clearly. It's not squashed into in one thing. We are going to add an extra level of security and going to check if the information is actually coming from the website and not from somewhere else. And the way you can do that is between two modules, you can see the tool icon. And that tool icon, if you click on it, you can set up a filter. In this case, we are going to set up you can set a label. You can set a condition, which is the dynamic information. In this case, so we cannot see the information that I'm looking for, the current URL. So if this happens, what you need to do is run the scenario once. So here you can click on the arrow and you can select a previously sent data, select that, and then run with that information, the data, the scenario. So I'm going to click on this one. That is an error because we didn't set up the OpenAI module yet. Now we can see this information. Now we can see the correct information that I'm looking for. So what we'll do is we'll set up a filter, and let's name it form data from allowed domain ? And the first one is the dynamic information that we are looking for. So if you click on this, if you see this pop-up, the first tab is the general information. This shows the data from previous modules, what fields are available, what you can use. And as you can see, if you move your mouse above any of this, then this module is pulsating, so it helps you to recognize where the information is coming from. So what we need is right now is the current URL, because I want to check if the current URL is coming from the right website. So what we'll do is from the text operators, just select the start with, and I will enter the website address. Anything that comes from the website, it will go through. Anything that comes from somewhere else, it will stop it. Let's save this one. The next thing is to set up the OpenAI on the automated process. This is what we are going to do. AI is going to categorize the inquiry into either promo or other or lead or general question. If you're using OpenAI for the first time, that you won't have this connection set up. You will need to click here and add a name, an API key, and an organization ID. You will need to go to this address. This is the OpenAI platform. If you go there, and once you registered, after that you log in, you will see the dashboard. On the left-hand side, there is an API keys menu. And if you click on that one, you can set up API keys. Just there's a create new secret key. Give it a name, select the project, all permissions, and create a secret key. This secret key, you will see it only once, which means you will need to copy it, paste it, and save it somewhere safe, for example, into a password manager. The next thing to do is to paste it in make, right here, the API key. And for the organization ID, if you go back to the OpenAI platform, there is a settings in the top right corner. And if you click on that one, on the general tab, there is an organization ID. And just highlight this, copy, and paste it into this, and then click on save. I won't do this because I already have an API key set up. So Once that's done, once you set up your connection, the next thing to do is to select a model. And here you can see plenty of models. We will use the latest one, GPT 5.5 for this one. As you can see, there are two versions of this one. There is one that has a date in there and one that doesn't have a date. We will use the dated version. And the reason for that is this one is fixed. So this version that has the date doesn't change. The other version can change, which means if it changes, it can change the way your automation works. And that is not good for consistency. So what we'll do is use the dated version, which stays the same. We are making sure that it stays consistent. Using an AI always should be aligned with your company's governance and rules and policies. So the legal, the ethical, responsible usage rules, the compliances, data privacy. If you don't have these policies yet, take some time to set these up before you start using an AI. And if you already have them, use AI aligned with those policies. These are a few best practices, not all of them, just a few of them. So only collect data you need. Avoid sending sensitive data to AI unless it's approved and it's really necessary. So only send data to AI when it's absolutely necessary. What you will see that we won't send the email address of the leads to the AI because it's not necessary for what we use it for. Do not let AI to make the final decisions in high-risk areas. Human review before sending emails, updating records, or making recommendations, at least in key areas, and log what happens so you can trace it back and you can check it if it's needed. It is a relatively easy to use module. It's not technical. But what happens in the background, basically there is an API in the background on OpenAI's side. And there is communication between Make.com and OpenAI using an API. Just to show you this quickly. So this is how it looks like. If you remember, we talked about Webhook earlier, which was a one-way communication between two softwares. Normally, that's how it works. As an API, just imagine it more like a two-way communication between two softwares. So we have software A, we have software B that has an API. And what happens, software A uses an API address. It sends an action request and an information to the API. The API takes some actions and it responds back to the software A. An example, what will happen is basically Make.com is going to send OpenAI's API an action request to categorize the inquiry. The information is going to be the subject and the inquiry message. The OpenAI API is going to take that action, is going to categorize it, and is going to send back a specific response to Make.com. So that's what happens in the background. Back to the OpenAI module. So we already selected a module. For the prompt type, we will select text prompt. And as the prompt, this is the instruction that directs OpenAI, the AI, what to do with this information. I already wrote this message, so I'm going to copy this in. So basically it starts with you are an inquiry classification assistant. Categorize the inquiry based on only the subject and the message. Choose exact categories. And then we explain exactly what a lead is, what a general question, what a promo message, what another message type. We will need to pass on the subject to have this information. And the way you can do this is to, when you click on this field on the first tab, you can see the webhook, what we are getting information from the webhook. The subject is, in this case, you can see not just the field names, but the sample data that we got from a previous run. And that also helps to identify the field names. In this case, text 1 is not exactly describes that this is the subject, but the inquiry helps to identify that this is the subject of the message. And we'll also put in the message. So we have the instructions, we have the inputs fields, the data, and just the last part of the instruction, we instruct AI to output exactly one category and nothing else, and just list lead, general question, promo, other. In this example, we use these categories, but if you're using different categories, then set those categories. One last thing I like to set is, which is in the advanced settings. If you click on toggle this, you can scroll down. I like setting the output format. I want the AI to send back a text. There are other options like JSON object. I'm not going to go into it. That's a different format, a more structured format. And sometimes that is really useful. But in our case, I want it to send back just a text. Let's save this. And one last thing that I'm going to do is to give it a name. Because we are going to have another OpenAI module. So I want to make sure that it's easy to understand that this OpenAI module is doing this. Okay, let's save this one. As you can see, it still shows an error from a previous run. So I'm just going to refresh this and click on here just to go into the editor. And as you can see, there is no error anymore. So this one is set up correctly. The next thing that we are going to do in a workflow, we have the category. We will need to log the inquiry. One important thing is that AI can make mistakes. Although I instructed the AI to send back one category and what are the specific categories, there is a chance that AI will return something different. If it returns something different, we don't want to run the rest of the workflow with wrong details. So we will do a condition. We'll check that if we got back valid information from the AI. And the way we can do this, if you click on the plus button, search for a router. This router, basically what it does is going to split the automation in two ways. So if you press Shift and highlight an area, every module that falls into that area is highlighted and you can move them together. So really quickly, I move this around just to make sure that it's easier to see and clearer. So what we will do, if it's a valid category, so we will set a filter between the router and the next module. If it's a valid category, then we will run the rest of the automation. If not, we will log it into the spreadsheet that I will show you in a moment. In the condition field, we will check if the categorized inquiry, the OpenAI, the result that it returns, it matches with our expected categories. So it's text operator equals to, in this case, lead, or again, we will use select this one and check if it's a general question, or if the AI result is a promo, or if the AI result is other. So these are the expected categories. Obviously, if you have different categories, use those categories. If the AI returns valid categories, we will run down this one. We will set this one a fallback route. So if the other route doesn't run, then this will. So basically, if it's not a valid category, then the automation run into this. First, we'll set up the fallback route, this one. The automation will log the inquiry if it's an invalid category. We will have a Google Sheet on Google Drive. It's pretty much a simple one. The date, time when the form was submitted, a category based on the AI, how it categorizes. In case of a manual process, the status is not that relevant, but in case of automation, it's useful to have a status, a processing status. Basically, when we add a new record to this spreadsheet, it will be processing. Once it's finished, it's processed. And if it needs any attention, for example, the category that was returned by the AI is not valid, in that case, we will set it to needs attention so someone can check it out later. And the rest of the fields are straightforward, like name, email, subject, message, and an error log. In your case, create a similar spreadsheet. What we'll do is just simply add a Google Sheet. The best is to search for it. And among the Google Sheet options, we will add a new route to this sheet. What you will experience, the very first thing, if you are new to Make.com, then you won't have any connections. So what you will need to do is to add a new connection. And the way it works, you set the name and then you sign in with a Google account. It simply shows up, it brings up a separate window where you either select a Google account you already logged in with, or you can add a new Google account. In my case, I'm already logged in, so we'll click on that one. Once you're logged in, you will see a message like this. Google will allow Make to access this info about you, and it lists what are those information. Just click on Continue, and then it will show you the permissions that is needed for this specific task. In this case, Make has to be able to see, edit, create, and delete all of your Google Drive files, and see, edit, create, and delete all of your Google Sheet spreadsheets. Make only will ask the relevant permissions that are really needed for that connection. You will see that later, that we'll need to add extra permissions for different modules. Click on Continue. So now we have a new connection, and the next thing that you need to do is search by path, to use the search method. For Drive, My Drive, and to find a spreadsheet name, you search for it. In my case, it's in the demo folder, and it's called Demo Inquiry Log. Select the relevant sheet. Make sure that the table contains headers is selected as yes. And the next thing to do is to fill in the columns. As you can see the same columns as in the spreadsheet. So here the submitted, these headers are over here. So it makes it easy to fill in the details. So the first one, the submitted date from the webhook, we will use the entry time, the category. We are in a fallback route, which means the AI either sent back a wrong category name or they didn't send back anything, which means we don't have a category, so we won't set anything here. But in the status field, we will set needs attention, because this is something that someone will need to have a look later manually. In the name field, we can set the name as the first name from the webhook and the last name from the webhook. So between the two, there is a space. For the email, we will use the email address from the webhook, and the subject, really quickly, just click on it. For the message, let's find this one, and the message. And for the error log, I will set a date and time to show like when this actually happened, this error, and just explain what happens. And the way you can do this is above this tab, you have different kind of functions, like math functions, text functions, date functions, array functions, and other things. For now, we use the date one, and we need to format the date to a specific format. First one, in case of the format date, we need to set the actual date, and the second parameter is the format. For the format, we will set this one. So basically, this is a simple date time format. The year, the months, the days, the hour, and the minutes. And after that, I will really quickly add just a quick message, so it's informative what happened, what was the error, inquiry categorization failed, and then just save it. And after that, change the name so we know exactly what this is doing, even without opening the module. And after that, let's save this scenario. Then we can move on to the other one to show you the automated process again. So basically we logged already if there is an invalid. We need to log the inquiry when it has a valid category. So in Make, we'll do this really similarly like the other one. We're gonna add in another Google Sheet module and an add row, because we added one row here. Remember, this route is only, we'll add a row to the spreadsheet if the category is not valid. This route will only add if it's valid. So they won't run at the same time. They won't add two rows. They just one, either this route will run, so these rows are there, or the other one. Okay, so Google Sheets. This time is going to be a bit quicker process because we already have that connection. So just make sure that you selected the right collection. The search by path, My Drive, select the relevant Google Sheet. And once that's loaded, the sheet, and we will fill in the details. Again, this is going to be really similar to the other ones. So we are going to use the webhook, the first module's entry time. As the category, we are in the route where we have a valid category identified by the AI. So we will use that from the AI module, the result. As a category, we will, as a status, we will set that this is processing. As the name, we will set from the webhook the first name and the last name, and then the email address is coming from there. So basically, what in the manual process is happening, this copy pasting that would happen manually. Now we are filling this in, mapping it out, and the automation will do it this way automatically. We don't need to add anything into the error, so just let's save it. Let's save the module. Make sure that you save the scenario as well. And one more thing, again, we need the right name. And now that we have that, from this process, we did this one. Now we need to take care of the different scenarios, the promo and other, the lead, and the general question. We are going to use different routes for this one. So the very first thing that, like, if it's a promo or other, we will mark it as processed in the inquiry spreadsheet. For the other ones, we will do these steps. Let's do this by adding another router. So just click on the plus and look for router. Then press the shift and you can highlight an area and then move multiple modules at the same time. And this one comes here, and this one comes over here, and just save it. So the first route that we are going to set is a filter. So this one is going to be for leads and general questions. So if it's, the label is going to be lead or general question. And then from the AI module, the categorize inquiry AI module, if the result is lead or the result is general question, then the automation will use this route. And if it's something else, if it's not a lead or not a general question, then we will fall back to this route, which means this is the route for a promo or other category. And in this case, we will update the spreadsheet, the inquiry log. So from the Google Sheet, in this case, we are not adding a new row. We are going to update a row. Again, the connection, we use the same connection as previously and select the same spreadsheet. Use the same sheet. And in this case, when we are updating a row, we need to set the row number. The way it works, in this situation here, we added a new row to the spreadsheet. So from this module, we know like which row was added. We knew the row number. So the row number, we can set it like this module. If you move the log inquiry module, if you move it, you can see it's pulsing right here, and set the row number. What we need to do is, in case of updating a spreadsheet, if you leave empty the field, it's not going to do anything with it. So we only need to add a value to that field where we want to change the value. So in this case, this is going to be, the status is going to be processed. In case of promo and other, we don't need to do anything else. And the last thing is just change quickly the name. Now we can take care of the other case where the category is lead or general question. And in that case, we can collect the information and write the email draft. That later, this email draft is going to be used either if it's a lead, we will use that draft, or if it's a general question, we will also use that draft. So the first thing, to find that information in Google Drive, I stored the company information in a simple file, in a simple markdown file. It is a text with some special characters, with markdown characters, that helps the AI to understand the structure of these documents better. In real life, the company information would be in multiple documents, but for the sake of keeping this demo simple, I would use one document. We need to download that Google Drive to be able to pass that document to another OpenAI module. To do this, we'll search for Google Drive. And from the options, download a file. Because this is a different module than the spreadsheet module, you will need to create a new connection. The reason why Mick is asking this, to create a new connection, because it requires different permissions. So just click on sign in with Google. It will bring on the same pop-up window as previously. Just log in with your Google account, and then click on continue. And once the module is asking for extra permissions, just click on the continue. A bit of time and it will show up that new connection. Instead of entering manually, select from the list. So which file you want to download from your drive, just select the file. In case for me that one is in the demo folder, maybe for you it's going to be somewhere else, but I select that demo accounting company info markdown file. Save the module, change the name to download company context, and then save the scenario. Once we have the file, we will use AI to write the draft. We will use an OpenAI module, and the same tool generates a response. In this case, because you already used an OpenAI module in your account, you don't need to create a new connection. You can use the same one. For the model, we will select the same GPT 5.5 and the dated version. But this time, instead of a prompt text, we will use a file prompt because we need to attach that company information to this module so AI can use it. For this one, we will select a file data as an upload type. Make already selected this one, the Google Drive download file. So the previous module, we downloaded the file, and here we selected that. So we will use that file that we downloaded earlier. As a prompt, it starts with you are writing a draft email reply on behalf of SimpleTax Accounting. The company information document is available in the attached context. Use it as a source of truth. Your task is to write a concise, helpful draft reply to the inquiry below. And for the inquiry, we will add the actual details that the user submitted in the form. So the sender's first name. From the first module, use the first name. We won't add the surname or we won't add the email address to this. Remember, a best practice, only share the details that you need to share with AI that is absolutely necessary. In this case, the last name and the email is not necessary. So the inquiry subject, we will select that one. And for the inquiry message, we will select from the first module, the webhook. And after that, we have the section of writing rules and the tone and style. You can instruct the AI to write basically an email just like you would or your team would write. Also, we have a section to what you may include in this relevant question guidance. Obviously, if a lead sends an inquiry or someone sends an inquiry, then usually asking questions from that person is helpful. So we can have a section here that explains how to ask questions. Also, a section, if someone has an inquiry, in certain situations, it makes sense to recommend a person to have a discovery call. And we can I explain here when to do that. And there is a section for output format and then to sign off with a specific sign off. As for the previous one, I mentioned in the advanced settings, I like setting the output format. In this case, we'll use again text as the output format. Okay, let's save it and just change the name of the module. So we know that this is writing the email draft. And I will move this here and just click on save. Okay, it says there are errors. There is no file name and file data, but we actually, I close this one. As you can see, we actually set this one. So let's click on save again. And now we can save the scenario module. So the next thing that happens after the AI wrote the draft, the next thing that we need to do is based on the category to decide if we are dealing with a lead or we are dealing with a general question. We'll add a router, shift and select the area, the modules that you want to move. One of them is going to be where the automation handles the lead category, and the other one is going to be the general question. So click on the this little bubble, and for this one we'll set if it's as a label lead. After a while, you have more than a few modules. This list is getting long and it's more difficult to find things in there. You can use the search if you already know like what you are searching for. In this case, we are searching for the result element, and you can see the two AI modules. One of them is categorizing inquiry, and the other one is the email draft. We need the category name. If the category is lead, then the automation will use this route. And for the other one, we'll set as a general question. And again, search for result. category AI result, and it equals to generate question, then the automation will use this route. So first on, we'll take care of the generate question routes. In case of generate question, so we'll save the draft. The one that the AI wrote earlier, we will save the draft into Gmail. We will mark that inquiry as processed in the Google Sheet. And at some point, a human will pick it up, review the draft in Gmail, and then send it. So first, the automation needs to save that draft into Gmail. And for that, as you have guessed, we'll use the Gmail module. Click on the Gmail, and you can see many options right here. We need the draft one. If you are new to Make.com, then you won't have a connection right here. You will need to add. If you remember, for Google Sheet and Google Drive, we already set up connections. Even if you use the same Google account, Gmail is a different tool and it requires different permissions, so you need to set up another connection here. You will see that from this point later. You don't need to always set up new connections if you're using the Gmail module, or again, you just only set it up the first time. If you're using the spreadsheet modules multiple times, you only set it up the connection the first time you use the spreadsheet module. Quick login, which shows this window that you have seen previously. Select the account that you want to use, click on continue, tick all the boxes that requires the permission, and click on continue. You can see the new connection is available. We are sending an email back to the person who submitted the web form. So for the to address, we can use from the very first module, the webhook, we will use the email address that the person submitted on the web form. As the subject, we will use the standard RE colon, and after that, we'll put the same subject that we got from the form. For the body type, use the collection of contents. And for the body contents, the text is where we need to send the message. I already prepared a template for this one. So we will use this template where it starts with the draft. So the AI module that wrote the draft will use that result. And below that, I have a couple of empty lines and a divider line. And between two HTML tags, it's called blog quote, and it looks like this, the opening tag and the closing tag. And between that, we will add the original message. This will help the person who will review this draft and send it to actually see like what was the original message and what is the reply. And also the sender who will read the message later, it will help them to understand what was the message. So we use the original message right there and then save the module. And let's give it a nice name that helps us to understand what this is about. Create email draft, and then quickly we'll save the scenario. Once you have the email draft ready and saved in Gmail, then the next thing is that the automation marks this inquiry as a processed one. So let's add another module and a Google Sheet. We will update the row and just simply select the relevant connection, search by name, My Drive, and find the inquiry spreadsheet. And then select the relevant sheet. For the row number, you can search for it to row number, and it will show that the log inquiry. When we added the inquiry row to the spreadsheet, we will use the row number from that module. Because we are updating, we only need to add the information to that field that we want to update. In our case, it's the status. We want to change it to processed. And click on save, and then the name as the update inquiry log. And then save. With this one, we took care of the general question route. We created a Gmail, the save draft and the process, and then later on, that is a manual process. Now it's time to take care of the lead category. And the first one is we are going to build the automation and make it to check if the lead exists in the CRM or not. So let's go back to Make. In the lead route, the next thing to set is the CRM. In this demo, I use Close CRM, but if you're using another CRM, then find that relevant module and find the relevant tool in that module that is capable of searching for a lead. If you're new to Make and you haven't set up your CRM connection yet, then you need to set up a CRM connection, and you can do that by adding this. In case of a Close CRM, it works with an API key. In case of other CRMs, this might be similar to Google accounts that you can log in and navigate through certain steps to connect it. Really quickly, I will show you in Close CRM where you can find the API key. There is a settings menu, and if you scroll down, there is a developer menu, and right here you can set up a new API key. Once you do that, just copy that API key over. Again, if you are using a different CRM, this process might be different the way you connect it. When it comes to finding a lead, we will do this by searching for an email. And let's search for email. From the very first module, the Catch Web Form Submissions, the webhook, we will use the email address. The limit should be 1. It doesn't need to return more than one option. If it's there, it's there. Let's save it and then rename it as a find lead and then save the scenario. Either we find it in the CRM or we not. Based on that, we will need to do different things. But before we do that, we need to save a couple of values from the CRM into variables. Make has tools, and in the tools, we will use the set multiple variables and just set up the following variables, a lead ID. So the way I like to use this is use the camel casing naming for the variable names, that the first character is a letter, a small letter, and then any additional letters are capital letters, and there are no spaces in there. Although Make can handle variable names with spaces, I like use variable names without spacing, with just one word in camel casing. We will set the lead ID from the find module, the CRM module. Right here, there is a lead ID, and we will use that one. We'll add another item, going to be the contact ID. I will explain a bit later why we are doing this exactly. The contact ID, there is a contact and there is a contact ID. And one more, we'll set the contact email address, contacts, emails, and email. Give it a name that explains that we are setting up the lead ID, contact ID, and contact email in this module. Let's save the scenario. The automation checks if the lead is there. We need to take care of if it's in the CRM what we do, and if it's not in the CRM what we do. You might have already guessed that we will use another router. With Shift, highlight the modules and just move them around and just save. We will set the first route, lead not found in the CRM. And the way we can do that is from the CRM module, we can use the total number of bundles to check if there is anything returned or how many is returned. Because it's a number, we will use the numeric operator equal to. If the CRM search module returned 0 items from the CRM, then that means the lead was not found. If you remember, for each route, we set specific filters, specific conditions when the automation can use them. If it's a valid category, or the fallback if it's not a valid category, or the other one if it's lead or general question, or the fallback. This is for every one of them, we set specific conditions when the automation can use them. This is going to be a bit different because the way routing works in Make.com, if you don't set up any filters, then the automation will go through the first route. Then when the first route finished, then it will go through the second one. And in our case, if we cannot find the lead, then we need to add the lead. As you can see in this diagram, from that point, we are going to do the same process. So if the lead is not found, we'll create the lead and then just save the draft and do the rest of the process. And if it's found, we just skip the creating. And that's what we are going to do here. This is only going to run if we didn't find it. And the other one, the second one, is going to run always. We will create a new lead. So let's find Close CRM. And in there, let's find create a lead. Select the connection. And for the name, we will use the names from the original webhook. So the first name and the last name with a space between them. So the way Close CRM works, that basically a lead is usually a company. And within a company, you can attach various different people contacts. In our case, these are individuals. For the name, we will set the person's name. And for the contact, we will set the person's name again. Let me show you something else. So these that we are added by clicking, you can go in there and you can highlight these elements, and with Command C or Control C if you're on Windows, you can copy these items and you can paste it into a different field. We added the name. We need to add an email address as well. And for type, we'll select as direct in this case. And for the email address, let's use the same email address from the original webhook. And then simply save. Now let's give it a nice name. This new lead has contact ID, a contact email, a lead ID that is brand new. So we are going to use the set multiple variable module again. But this time, because we already set these variables earlier, this time we are going to update them. And the way you can do this in Make, that you use the same exact variable names that you used previously, and you set a new value to it. We will use the create lead module. Simply set the lead ID, and we'll add another item. Actually, we will add two. The second one is going to be the contact ID. Open this, and contact ID. And as the third variable name is going to be the contact email address. And the create lead CRM one, we'll use the contacts and emails and just that one, and save. The name is going to be update these variables. Now that we set up the lead not found, we need to set up the one that runs always. So this one, if we didn't find it, we set this one up right there. But if the lead is found, then we are going to do this, the save draft. In this part, we will get the variables. In a moment, I will explain why we are doing this. So we'll get multiple variables. We will get three variables: the lead ID, the contact ID, and the contact email. And set a name, and then save it. If you remember, in this module, we search for the lead in the CRM. Either the CRM returns with that it found it, or it didn't find it. We set the lead ID, contact ID, and contact email. So this might be a real value or empty. If the automation didn't find the lead, then it goes down this route and it creates the lead. The variable setting, the way it works in make.com, is in this route, you cannot access the modules from the other route. So in this route, we cannot get the newly created leads ID, contact ID, and email address. So to be able to do this, we need to basically use these variables. We need to first initiate the variable names, and later in one route, we need to update it. And to make sure that we have the latest values, we need to get it right here. It's a bit tricky to understand at the beginning to get used to it, but once you understand it, it's quite simple. Okay, let's move on. One of the things that can happen in this situation is, for some reason, there was an issue with the CRM and we didn't get back any lead ID, or we didn't get back any contact ID. And in that case, we are not able to attach emails and tasks to that lead. So we need to handle that scenario. So let's use another router. Shift highlight the modules that you want to move. One of the routes, the filter that we are going to set is lead ID is set. What we will do is we will check this module if the lead ID, contact ID coming from this module is not empty. So it's not equal to empty. Or the contact ID from that same module is not equal to empty. So this way we know that we have an existing lead ID and contact ID. So we can attach emails and tasks to those leads. And in case that's not possible, we'll set it as a fallback. So this one only will run if this route doesn't run. And here we will log into the inquiry sheet, update the relevant row. So let's select the sheet, row number. We will use the search for row number, and we will use the same row when the automation added it to the spreadsheet. And again, you only need to fill in those fields where we need to make the change. So the status is going to be needs attention. So someone will need to check it out later manually. And for the error log, again, we will use the formatted date. Okay, I just realized they changed the way it behaves. So this is what I wanted to show earlier, that basically if you move your mouse over one of these functions, that you can see how you can use it. And it shows that basically the form date, the first one, is the actual date. The second parameter is going to be the format. And for this one, we will use the now. And as the format, I will copy and paste this right in there. And a really quick message that explains what this error is about, lead not found in CRM, and just save it. And really quickly, I will set a name and just save it. So this route is already handled, and we only need a couple of things to set up. What we need is basically save the draft to attach an email to the lead in the CRM. We need to create a task, and we need to mark it as a processed. And the way we can do this, in where we have the lead ID and contact ID, in close CRM, I will search for the email and create an email activity. In your CRM module, this might be named something else. You can figure it out. Dynamically, we need to set this lead ID. So this lead ID will come from the module that we set up a bit earlier, where we got the up-to-date lead ID. As a status, I will use draft. For contact ID, again, we will set this one dynamically using the same module as a bit earlier. For user, I will set myself. The direction, it is an outgoing email. For created by, I will set me. For the email subject, we'll use the same standard strategy, the RE colon. And from the very first module, we will set the same subject. Sender's email, I will manually set the email I use. For that one, set your email. And to email address, we will use the one that comes from the webhook. And as for the body HTML, I will set pretty much the same template that we used previously in the Gmail module. We will use the result that comes from the right email draft module. And between the block quotes HTML tags, from the very first module, I will add the original message. And actually, I realized I set the body text. I will set the body HTML as well to the same one. Let's save the module. And then I will change the name to create email reply draft. So once this is saved, we need to create a task in the CRM for a relevant person. Search for your CRM, search how you can create a task. Again, we need to attach this to the lead. So let's set this one as the text of the task. In case of close CRM, there is a specific direct link that we can use to access that email draft. So I will set this up really quickly. Starts with this, and after that it comes the lead ID. From there is an additional part. It is going to use the threads ID that comes from create email reply draft, and we will use the thread ID from here. So right there, we will set it as a lead, as a task, assign it to the right person, and click on save. And the last thing is quickly a name. And there is one more thing that we need to do. If you remember, after we set the task, in the automated process, the automation needs to mark it as a processed inquiry. So we'll add another Google Sheet and update the relevant row. Just really quickly selecting the right spreadsheet, right sheet. For row number, we'll use the one that we used previously for the other modules. We'll need to update one thing, the status to processed, and then save it. And save. And with that, we have the entire automation set up. So from this process, now everything is built and implemented in Make that's handled by AI or the automation. And the rest of the process is human process. So the next thing that we need to do is to double check the modules. Before you start testing, it is important to double check every single module and field test, because sometimes Make doesn't save every single detail. It is a rare occasion, but for example, recently happened to me that one of the AI models that I used, even though I selected the model, it didn't save it, and that caused problem. So I always recommend to refresh the editor and just double check every single module. Let me show you. Starting the first one, just click it, look at it. If everything looks okay, then move on to the filters. Just double check if it looks everything okay. Right here, the module, it looks like everything is selected and everything is filled in, so it's okay. I'm gonna do the rest of the automation. Do this for yourself, and then I will come back. Okay, everything looks okay as I look through all the modules. It's time to test the entire automation from end to end. If you remember, we have a few different categories. We have a situation where the inquiry is a promo or something else type of message. We have that's when it's a lead or a general question. So in case of a scenario and automation where you have multiple different cases, you need to test all of them just to make sure that the automation that you built, every route is working properly. For now, I will show you 3 different tests. One of the things that you need to do is to make sure that the automation is actually active. That's right here. So the first thing that we are going to do is in the form on the website, I will really quickly add the details. And this is a message I wrote. If everything goes well, the AI should categorize this as a lead because the context of the message that says, I'm a contractor in marketing sector. Would you let me know how you can help me? What services do you have? So these are the questions in there and context in there. Normally an accounting company would get from a lead. Now let's submit this. And once it's submitted, in Make, if we go back this way and go to the history, then we can see that this is right now, it is running. Depending on the complexity of your scenario, this may take just 15-20 seconds or multiple minutes to run, or even longer. So I'm just going to refresh this. You can see it already succeeded. If you click on one of these history items, then you can see like what happened. If I scroll in, just like at the beginning I showed you, in the bubbles, you can click on and you can see the outputs. You can see what happens in the filter. If you have multiple conditions, you can see which one succeeded. If you click on this one, you can see the inputs, what goes into the AI, what comes out of the AI module. And you can see that we had a valid category that came out from the AI. So it logged it. You can see that it goes this way. So it went down the lead general question. It downloaded the document, wrote the draft. You can see right now, you can see the category was lead. So it ended up going through the CRM process, search for the lead in the CRM, but I didn't find it. So it created a new one. And then it went through the process and it created an email, created a task, and right then in the inquiry. So let me show you right here. You can see this showing up. The date, you can see the category, the lead, it was processed, the name, email, and as you can see, the subject. This is why you need to test, because this is a prime example that there is a problem right here. The automation pasted the text into the subject field, the message. So in this case, we can go there, find that. This is the history. So we cannot edit here, but right here, I'm gonna check where we audit the inquiry. I'm gonna check this one. And in the inputs, the values, you can see the subject. This gives us a hint that we need to go here, and right over here in the subject area, we can see that basically we use the same thing in the subject and in message field. So we need to replace this one with the subject and just save it. And in this one, it's supposed to be fixed. Well, we will see this in the next test. When you fix something, it's worth running another test to see if the fix actually works. Another thing I want to show you is that this lead showed up in the CRM. As you can see right here, the task was created, the email was created. So if I click on this one, is just really quickly shows the inquiry email with the email address filled in, subject, the actual draft. So this is where a human can review this email draft and make some changes if they want to and decide to send it or not. And another case is when someone submits a general question. So run that test as well. So going back to the form, I will really quickly submit a couple of details. In this case, the message that I wrote is really generic. Can you tell me about your business? If the AI is doing a good job, it will be categorized as a general question. So I will submit this. And once that's submitted, I'll go back to Make and go back to the history. And right now we can see that this is running. You can see the first test was 24 seconds, so it goes quite quickly in this case. Let me refresh this page. Here we go, we can see that this one was completed in 16 seconds with a success. So we'll go in there and check the history, what actually happened in here. So I can see that it went through. That way it was a valid category that we got back. It was logged into the spreadsheet. I can see it was categorized as lead or general question. So the company information was downloaded, the email was drafted, and here you can see that general question route went through, where you can see that the email draft was created and it was updated. So we go to the spreadsheet where I can see that this is actually really logged. The time, it was general question, it was processed, the correct details was there. If you remember, a bit earlier, I mentioned the subject line was not correct in the previous one. So basically we did a fix, now it's working correctly. And if I go to Gmail, among the drafts, I can see a new draft. And right here, everything is filled in, the subject, a bit correction is needed. You can see there are many empty lines more than is necessary, but the original question is there. A human can come here, read this draft, fix anything that they need to, and just send it. This is a lot quicker to review and send than to actually write a message. So the next one that we need to check, what happens if someone sends a promo or another type of message on the phone? I will quickly fill in the details. This message I wrote is pretty much, hi, we provide SEO services to accounting companies. Are you free for a quick call to discuss how I could help you? Best regards, Sam. The AI should categorize this as a promotional message. So let's submit this. Once that's done, back in Make, we go to the history, and right here we can see that in 4 seconds, this one ran really, really quickly and successfully. Now we go in here and see what actually happened. As you can see, it was really quick, just a few steps. AI categorized it. Okay, if I open this one, you can see that the result is promo. So you can already see what happened. It went down the correct route because that was a valid category. It logged the inquiry and it didn't do anything apart from that. It marked the message as processed. So if I go right here to the inquiry sheet, then you can see this one right here. It's categorized as promo and the details right over there. As you can see, we went through and we tested the primary cases. I recommend you to do more tests on it to see how it works and keep your eyes on it when you make it live to catch anything that is unexpected or it doesn't work that way it should work, and keep on adjusting it until it's working correctly. In the description, you can find the link to this automation, so you can import it into your own Make.com account and modify it as you need it. This is how you can turn a manual, repetitive website inquiry process into an efficient AI-powered automation that does the heavy lifting while it keeps a human in control with minimized effort. If you have enjoyed this video, please like it. It helps me more than you would think. Thank you for your support and watching this video until the end. See you in the next one.